The question I've often wanted to ask people who object to Islam per se, the faith of, or the alleged faith of 1.5 billion people, is what have you got against Islam? What is it that makes it so repugnant to you, or what do you object to it? Or to what do you object in it? Well, the obvious answer to that is just open one's copy of the Quran, have a look at a few quotes, and say, okay, this is what I've got against it. Now, that takes on generally the dimensions of quote mining, in my opinion, and it negates the fact that over the 1.5 billion people who self-identify as Muslims on this planet, there is an absolutely mind-boggling amount of diversity. If you look at, say, the Indonesian variant of Islam, or more particularly the Javanese variant of Islam, there's over 100 million Javanese, so that makes them one of the most numerous Muslim races on earth, if you want to say race. And their version of Islam is hopelessly mixed in with Hinduism, Buddhism, animism, and any number of other isms that you care to come up with, to the point where a lot of Muslims, one would say fellow Muslims from other countries, are repelled by it. The national carrier of Indonesia, the national airline of Indonesia, is called Garuda, and anyone who knows anything about Hinduism will tell you that Garuda is the giant eagle that the Hindu god Krishna flies on. One of the symbols of Indonesian culture is the Javanese wayang, which is the puppet show that tells tales from the Hindu epic, the Mahabharata. Now, this is supposedly a Muslim country. Now, this kind of syncretic Islam is not confined to Indonesia. You'll see in India as well. One of my favorite musicians is a fellow by the name of Ustad Bismillah Khan. He's an Indian musician from the city of Banaras, Varanasi, who plays the sort of pipe that you always see snake charmers playing. It's called a shenai. He's a self-identified Muslim, as you can tell by his name, but he's also a devotee of the Hindu goddess of learning, Saraswati, as are a huge number of India's Muslim artists. And that's considered just part and parcel of the Indian Muslim scene. If you go, say, to Turkey, it's generally a Muslim country. Most people there self-identify as Muslims. A huge portion of that population is almost hardline, fanatical in their secularism. They're quite prepared to use force, violence, or military intervention in politics to prevent Islam from gaining much of a foothold in public life. It looks to me as though Turkey, if in a worst-case scenario, could go the way of Algeria, where they'll either get military rule or civil war because the seculars are so hardline. You'll also see places like Bosnia, where the Muslims, well, you can call them Muslims, I suppose, because that's how they may self-identify, but you'll see an awful lot of Muslim women wearing miniskirts, lipstick, and Muslim men drinking lots of alcohol, probably Muslim women for all I know, and quite openly, and who would feel horribly out of place in an area like Saudi Arabia or Afghanistan. So there really is no one actual definition of a Muslim. You can say that by quote mining the Quran, you've pretty much figured out 1.5 billion people, but all you've done really is you've generalized about 1.5 billion people, and it's not reasonable to do so. Therefore, you've sort of, in my opinion, simplified the view, made it unnuanced, and therefore it's an unfair generalization about anyone who happens to follow Islam or calls themselves a Muslim. Therefore, it's racism, or if not racism, then exactly the same thing with the same results. Thank you.